2021, the year we all perhaps many years ago envisioned from old books and conversations with friends to be one of a superior year, one so futuristic, uninterrupted holographic communication and transportation perhaps, and even those conversations about flying cars. Well, we're not quite there yet, ladies and gentlemen, but one thing's for sure, we are on the right and speedy path of innovation and transformation, an agenda that promises to deliver. Welcome to The Nation. I'm Jessie Chahel, and joining me today to share Malaysia's journey towards realizing and achieving the Digital Nation Agenda is Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, or as we all know it, MCMC. Doctor, welcome. Last year, 2020, of course, that was a tough year for us all, but it's literally forced us to embrace, adapt, and adopt transformation, technology. This space for, I think for a long time was in a phase of awareness creation. We were trying to bring the horse to the water, so to say. But then that quickly escalated and progressed to questions from organizers, or even businesses asking these important questions: how fast, how quick, when? With all that in motion, it seems like things are falling into place with the national agenda. But perhaps you could give us a better understanding as a nation now in terms of digital transformation. Where are we?
As a nation, we've taken the baby steps. Okay, so we've passed that baby steps for the moment, and we are now about to run. Okay, and we certainly need to run. We thought we could continue with the baby steps for a long while, but COVID-19 came to our door, and suddenly everybody had to run. And the infrastructure had to run, the processes had to run, the businesses had to run, and everybody were, are now running. But everybody's asking, how do I run? How fast do I run? Where do I run to?
Correct.
Okay, so this is where we are. We are in a space where everything needs to move. Okay, it's kind of like fixing a plane at 30,000 feet. Okay, so people like us as a regulator, we need to then drive the industry to make sure that infrastructure is ready. That the other parts of the government need to have the right policies to help businesses to take on a new way of life, a new way of doing business. And of course, us as consumers, at the end of the day, we consume. And we've also changed our consumption patterns from actually going to a shop. Now we're clicking into a shop. Okay, and before, we were very hesitant to transact online, simply because not sure whether will my money go to this right person or will I get the goods. But suddenly today, nobody blinks. Everybody just will do it simply because it's something so natural today. It's just like the air that we breathe. Okay? Right. So hence, in terms of the digitalization, three things need to happen: the industry, the business, and the people, okay, and of course the government. Yeah. So today, all four are now moving in tandem. The trick now is to make sure they all move at the right speed, okay, and hopefully the infrastructure moves slightly faster than the process.
Which brings me to my question, what is the sort of timeline and plan, if you could just help sort of draw that out for us in terms of the national digital transformation? As we know, 2020 has urged us, has pushed us all a little bit, forward to move faster. So it was a blessing in disguise, because otherwise the phase to kickstart might have been a little slower.
True. When you talk about digitalization, the transformation need to happen within a span of 3 years. Okay, people will say, no, it can't happen. Look, I think we just need to set high and tough targets for ourselves. So as a nation... But
aren't high and tough targets being, zealous or perhaps being ambitious?
People say you are overzealous, but to me, I've always felt that we need to drive and set high targets for ourselves, because only when we shoot for the sky, we'll probably hit the top of a tree.
Or land among the stars.
Okay, or land among the stars, right? So at worst, at best. So hence, today we set ourselves high targets. We need to do that all within a span of 3 years. Then 3 years is a very short runway. Okay, and people say, your targets are just crazy. I'll be the first to say, yes, it's crazy, but is it doable? Answer is yes. Okay, if we start the journey by saying, oh, it's difficult, then it will be difficult.
But what has made it a little bit more challenging is, of course, the MCO period, which lasted throughout 2020 and is now spilling into 2021. How is this affecting the rollout plans, infrastructure and deployment?
It affected initially, But I think the industry kind of like got around it by looking at it that this is the way of life. This will be the way we do things. And because the industry is such that they are driven by profits, okay, so any inefficiencies that kicks in simply because of a change in environment, they will innovate and change themselves. Okay, and hence we found that when we set high targets together with the industry, for the first quarter of the program, which was only which lasts for 3 months, from September to close to December, the industry actually achieved those high targets, which means there's a strong promise that they will do just as good in the next quarter and the next quarter. And the way that we do with them is that we say, look, if you set high targets, we'll go public with those targets. Tell the public that I'm going to do this. Yep. And even if you do not achieve those targets, getting 90% of a very high target is still better than getting 90% of a very low target.
Absolutely.
Okay? So hence, and this is where we try to educate the public that if they don't achieve 100%, it's not a bad thing, because the targets that they set were extremely high.
And it's still progress in the right direction.
And it's progressing.
I'm going to hold that thought with you, Doctor. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more right here on The Nation Jendela.
Meili is a university student in Kuala Lumpur. She needs to visit her grandmother in her hometown next week. However, Meili has an exam scheduled at the same time. She plans to revise her lessons during the trip through online learning via video. Meili is worried about unstable internet access while traveling. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and 4G coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases. The 3G network will be gradually terminated as the 4G network is expanded to give Malaysians access to high-speed mobile lines throughout the country. With Jendela, people like Meili can enjoy uninterrupted online services all the way back to her hometown. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economic progress.
Welcome back to The Nation Jendela. Our topic today towards realizing and achieving the Digital Nation Agenda. Joining me, of course, is the Chairman of the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. We've been at conversation about the implementation rate and the rollout plan as well. But let's talk a little bit, Doctor, about the buy-in of stakeholders involved with the digital transformation plan.
Like all infrastructure projects, okay, there will always be the federal as well as the state government. And because this infrastructure are going to be located in the states, we certainly have to deal with stakeholders on the state, from the state. And so far, the response has been positive. Okay, I've made it a point to visit every single state head, okay, and every state secretary, together with the state head, had actually responded positively. And to date, we started our journey by saying, look, we have investment coming into your state. If you are slow, investment will move away. Okay? And this is one industry where investment is ready to come in. So, and they say, what do you need us to do? We need you to have the right policies to facilitate and make sure investment can happen faster. And what would that be? We said, what if we make telecommunications a third utility? Okay. And today, after
not as much a luxury.
Yeah, it's no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. And because of of an MCO, suddenly it kind of clicked. They said, yeah, my constituents are saying I need internet. So it's kind of like, you know, rang a bell. And today, 3 states have actually made telecommunications a utility. 4 states have made it telecommunications a utility in their state as a policy.
Could you share those states with us?
Of course, there's Penang, there's Sarawak, Melaka, and recently Perak.
We're talking about Sarawak and of course our friends in East Malaysia. The Jendela plan of course aims to increase Malaysia's 4G coverage from 91.6% right up to 96.9%, while also increasing broadband speeds from 25 Mbps to 35 Mbps, all by 2022. I understand these targets. Of course, the biggest gainers will be, of course, the people of Sabah and Sarawak. There are hundreds of locations in the pipeline, and as you mentioned, the stakeholders, you have their buy-in as well. Let's talk a little bit about the IR4 or the Industrial Revolution 4.0. How is that complementing this plan as well?
IR 4.0 is actually a product of a good infrastructure. Okay, so as companies adopt IR 4.0 processes, they will need connectivity, and hence this is where we come in. We make sure that the connectivity is at the right level, at the right speed, at the where they need it. So people always ask, when you try to do an IR 4.0, do you need 5G? My answer is, no, you do not need 5G immediately. You eventually will need 5G, but at this stage, 4G is adequate. Okay? So hence, Jendela starts by getting the foundation right, by making sure 4G is available. We make sure that it's available across the urban, the suburban and the rural, so that the digital divide at the infrastructure level is kept to a minimum. Once that is ready and IR 4.0 is more pervasive, okay, then you'll find that the need for 5G comes into play.
Where the 3, 4 and 5G is concerned, 3G, as I understand it, is being phased out by end of this year, and then all existing spectrum will be used for 4G. So people will sort of transfer towards a 4G network.
Because for speed to happen, you need to have the right amount of spectrum. And spectrum is finite. And if you have used part of a spectrum for something else, therefore you can't suddenly use it for the same thing, for something else on the same spectrum. So you need to free that spectrum, refarm it, and use it on the 4G.
So what is MCMC doing at this point to ensure that that transition is smooth enough?
First and foremost, we need to make sure that the goods in relation or equipments that are 3G are not imported into the country. Okay, therefore they should not be sold to anyone. So once you stop that supply of 3G into the ecosystem, then you need to phase out the equipments that's already in the ecosystem for them to be then be replaced by 4G. So that one will have a runway for about a year. Okay, so we started our journey last year. So we've informed customs, SIRIM, and all the relevant agencies that we will no longer certify 3G equipments. We then will only we will allow 4G equipments to be brought into the country. And for those of us who are using 3G equipment, the service providers themselves are also providing packages to help people who may have 3G devices to then move to a 4G device at a lower cost.
Would that also, when you mention cost, does that involve a higher cost because you are, perhaps using equipment that is at some point will be obsolete or outdated? You're also looking at upgrading software and applications that you have.
As far as applications are concerned, most of our applications run best on 4G. Right? So if you have a device, so the question now is, will a 4G device be expensive? My answer is, it's a supply and demand. The higher the demand is for such a device, the cheaper it becomes. So you create that demand to make sure that you create the demand so that when the supply comes in, the price will be at a lower level. So that is being done. At the same time, if you recall the budget 2021, there is also a 180 ringgit subsidy from the government that allows someone in the B40 group to then use that money as part of a subsidy to procure a new device. Okay, so hence, as I said, it helps. So you help the B40, and by and large, most of the B40s are on 3G devices for an obvious reason, because it's cheaper, right? And because you don't allow 3G devices to be brought into the country, you do not get old devices being dumped into Malaysia. Okay, so which will then be a problem for us as users.
Well, we'll be back after this quick break. When we come back, we will be talking about the 5G demonstration projects, or the 5G DP, in reducing the digital divide. Stay tuned.
Muthu is a senior citizen living in the suburbs. At home, he spends a lot of time online connecting with his grandchildren who live in the city. When Muthu goes downstairs to get a recipe from his wife, the internet access is disrupted and his video call is cut off. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and broadband coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases and will involve the improvement, expansion and connectivity of high-speed coverage. This will ensure widespread coverage and connectivity nationwide. Malaysians will be able to access high-speed fixed and mobile broadband throughout the country. Additionally, all fibre service providers will continue to lend their support by upgrading their network capacity and deploying more base stations to meet the increase in 4G and 5G traffic. This will pave the way for future technology adoptions such as wireless and fixed wireless access and 5G to achieve the country's digital agenda. With Jendela increasing the reach of fibre optic services, Muthu can upgrade his internet services and get the latest internet hardware such as mesh Wi-Fi. He will be able to surf the internet anywhere in his house without any service disruption. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economic progress.
Welcome back to The Nation. Jendela, Doctor, before the break, I said when we come back, try to ask you about the 5G DP, which is the 5G demonstration project. Now, how pivotal or important is this in reducing the digital divide, which I must say is an existing problem that we have in the country?
Let's get this right. The 5G DP isn't meant to reduce the digital divide. Okay, the 5G DP is actually meant to make sure that businesses would be ready to use the 5G technology. So hence, by creating if you want, a sandbox, the industries are able to then play around, okay, with technology that makes sense to their business. Okay, so we can't just tell a business, say, no, you must adopt 5G. The chap will say, it doesn't make sense for my business. So businesses need to come forward to say, yes, I would like to improve my business. Let me give you an example. An oil and gas company says, I need to reduce my capital expenditure. I need to reduce my operational expenditure. How do I reduce my operational expenditure? One, I need to make sure that my cost of operations goes down. So how can I do that? Do I turn to machines? Probably yes. So hence they will have to invest a little bit on technology, but they need to see, can it actually work to the processes that I have today? Or do I need to change my processes? So this is where 5G DP provides a sandbox for them to try out the 5G technology, and we provide the spectrum for them to use it within a given locality. The upside is that we know that a 5G network, the first user of a 5G network will be the industry. So if we build out a network that has the industry using it first, and as we expand the network for consumers like us to use, therefore the cost of the network is largely paid for by the industry. Okay? So which means in the future, the cost of 5G isn't going to be as high as people make it out to be, because part of it is already been utilized and paid for by the industry users.
Itself. Okay.
Yeah.
But of course, with projects like this, a mega project like this, maintenance is also an issue, and upskilling workers, especially or skilled workers for this project, is also something that must be considered.
Absolutely. As I said, for all companies, when they go into digitalization, they just cannot look at just technology per se. They need to look at technology, they need to look at their own processes, and they then need to look at their own people. Okay? The last thing you want is someone who can't drive and give them an 18-wheeler and say, please drive. You can't. You need to train them to drive the 18-wheeler. then he or she can drive the 18-wheeler. Likewise, for 5G projects, by using the 5G DP demonstration, you allow a set of people to be upskilled, because they'll get the hang of it, they'll use it, they'll understand it, and then they can then be a master trainer for the rest of the team. Okay, so this is how we try to catalyze the new technology usage and new processes for a given industry.
Well, we understand and know that this journey is a bit of an arduous one. It's a little bit difficult, but we will get there eventually in a 5-year time frame. You said that it has been not an easy start, so to say, as yet, and there's still quite a long way to go. But overall, for our understanding, what sort of benefits will the Rakyat and us as a nation have at the end of this transformation journey, Doctor?
For the general population, there'll be new jobs, okay? Jobs that we've never thought of before, that people will then say, hey, this is a new skill set, this is something that people may hire me for. That is the first. Who have thought of data scientists years ago, or a data analyst years ago? But because of 5G and because of digitalization, that becomes very, very important. Who talks about data dams before? We've heard about water dams, right? But data dams, we've never heard that before. You need people to also work in that space, right? So new jobs will come to the fore. That's the first thing. Second, the way we live life is also going to be different. Okay, if we go out to a mamak shop, people now order food from mamak shop. Okay? And I had a friend who ordered food from nasi kandar all the way from Penang, and he stays in Kuala Lumpur. I was like, wow, but that's demand for you.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So who would have thought that this guy would be crazy enough to order all the way, and he tells me, actually, they have people driving down from Penang every day, serving people in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, good for you. Okay.
Yeah, won't really work during the MCO time because one can't cross state borders.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, at your fingertips is what you're saying, right?
The new it's a operational efficiency, and hopefully that too will also change the way the government serves the public. Okay, maybe we don't need to go to counters anymore. Okay, we don't have to wait in long queues. Going to a clinic, you don't have to wait because you know your appointment time is going to be at 10 o'clock, and I could just come in at 9:30, and I'm done. So I don't have to wait for hours on that.
Doc, on that note, and in conclusion, what are some of your hopes and aspirations as the country gears up to become a digital nation?
My hope is that I think we as Malaysians, we need to invest into digitalization. It starts at home. A simple thing. Instead of buying a new car, maybe save that money and buy devices for our children so that they can then learn using the devices. Okay, if possible, every child should have a device if we can afford it. Okay, that's the first thing. Second, I would hope that that the government agencies too will expedite their own effort with digitalization, and I think a policy by the government like digital first or cloud first, things like that would actually catalyze the change in the way we do things. And last but not least, I hope that the nations as a whole should use the technology in the right manner. Okay, because technology is a double-edged sword. Okay, you use it right, you get the right things. You use it wrong, it's detrimental to us. Okay, so those would be the three key things I would hope for all the efforts that we're putting in under Jendela.
That's right. Jendela, of course, a national plan aims to increase Malaysia's 4G coverage from 91.6% up to 96.9%, and also increasing broadband speeds. I agree with you, Doctor. I mean, online learning has paved the way now for that transformation to happen, for that adoption to happen, and definitely technology will shape the future of our lives, our work, and even things like employment and ordering food and what not, to say the very least. Is the plan ambitious? Yes, but we're aiming for the moon, and hopefully we will land among the trees or among the stars. Nonetheless, the plan is underway, a national digital transformation plan and agenda. Now, of course, this will lift Malaysia to, soar further and higher, and perhaps even better, to becoming a high-income nation. a better future for us all. And who knows, with uninterrupted holographic communication and transportation, and yes, even flying cars. That's it from me right here at The Nation Jendela. Signing off. Make sure you tune in to Bernama TV for more updates coming your way. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye and take care.
I'm Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC. For the latest on the National Digital Network Plan, watch The Nation Jendela every Thursday only on Bernama TV.